Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak Film and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Today, we are reviewing the new Predator prequel movie thing.
Yes.
Currently streaming on Hulu, called Prey. And this will be an interesting conversation because I had never seen any Predator movies before.
Okay.
So this was my entry into the Predator franchise, whereas I think you two are kind of seasoned vets, right?
I've seen the first one.
I've seen multiple of the franchise. I saw the one with Adrian Brody. I saw, I think, maybe parts of the really, really bad one that was like a couple years ago or a few years ago where it was just, that was not good. And then honestly, Alien vs. Predator is kind of a guilty pleasure movie for me. Like it's a movie that knows it's a video game and it's just like, they're all trapped in a temple with these creatures of the Predator.
Sure.
So I'm familiar in that way. Yeah.
I've seen Alien vs. Predator as well, the original with Arnold. And I actually think I've seen the one with Adrian Brody as well. Now that you mention it. So
you haven't seen the Danny Glover one?
Isn't he in the one with Arnold?
No, that's a different but he's
I'm thinking Carl Weathers when Carl Weathers is extremely jacked and is like a fucking man's man, like a Marine, and you're like, oh, you're not just like Lando, like you're fucking badass.
But yeah, so that's what I've seen. And I guess Nate, so what did I kind of want to hear your thoughts since you went in completely blind.
I think Adam should let people know what it's about in case. Indeed. I mean, we kind of went through it already, but just really quickly to kind of give them an idea of what the actual story is, not just, that it's a Predator movie.
That it's in that universe. Yeah. So Prey, the origin story of the Predator in the world of the Comanche Nation 300 years ago. Naru, a skilled warrior, fights to protect her tribe against one of the first highly evolved predators to land on Earth.
So my question for you guys, without like really spoiling anything, is this a prequel so much, or is it just like it happened earlier too, like a few hundred years before the first movie? Like, is it the same Predator?
Yeah. Are you asking like in the sense that like, the Star like prequels usually have more to do with like the character and it's like you get to see kind of character development or like something different? Like not really.
Like is this an origin? Is this like connected to the original movie in any way, or is it just like they dropped one of those Predators on here in the 80s, and then this time they dropped a different one in 1719, and it's just like
you're not learning anything new about the original Predator movie from this movie.
Got it.
No.
I didn't. As
all
I was
you're
watching
seeing is that it happened, like you said. It also happened 300 years ago, and how crazy would that have been? That was probably the elevator pitch for this.
Right, which is fine. I was curious, like, because with the way it ends, I was like, is this the same one, or is it just like a totally?
It's not
different...
the same Predator, but they explain as we mentioned, we saw Alien versus Predator. They explain in that movie that like this is like Predators coming to Earth is basically like a ritual to like become like a teenager to manhood. Like if you can kill, so it's like a
So it's like so in this movie, I can't remember what they call it, but like their sort of passage into their rite of passage into adulthood to go hunt something that's hunting you. So that's what. So that makes sense. I thought, I enjoyed this movie. Mostly, it wasn't even necessarily the Predator stuff that made me enjoy it. I thought just like the recreation of the Comanche world was really cool, and just a lot of really great like nature shots.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
The setting with like kind of hunting at night, like for a lion or a bear or like whatever it is, and kind of like getting like this movie would have been really cool to me without a Predator in it.
Yeah,
if they were just after like a huge bear or something,
like that movie Beast coming out with Idris Elba, just put the lion in
the Cujo in Africa.
But I see what you're saying, Nate. Like, it could have just not even had the Predator element, and it would have been interesting.
Right. Not that made me like hate it or anything, but I just kind of got halfway through it and was thinking like, I don't even need them to start fighting this thing.
That's why I think this works so well though, because it's like it's a good movie on its own regard without having like your main monster, your main thing. Like I think that can always make or break a movie. Like if you don't believe the world you're in, like you're not going to give a shit, right?
Yeah, and then you just get a lot of cool like hand-to-hand combat against this really strong thing. Basically, like if Aragorn was like fighting, if that like one Uruk-hai was like actually 10 times better than it even was.
Turned out to
be. If it was like that, and then like they were just hunting that thing. That's kind of how it felt to me with like the cool hand to hand. And there were moments where like the Comanche warriors were actually like really good.
Stone cold
like,
badass.
damn, these guys like know what they're doing.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
No. I just thought the whole concept was really great, and I'd say that like I really loved like probably the first like hour or like the first 45 minutes when they were kind of setting things up, and they kind of had a good pace of like revealing a little more of the Predator, revealing a little more about like our characters, and like in between like every 10 minutes there'd be a really cool like action set piece, something, and then interspersing that with just gorgeous nature shots. I thought it was really, honestly, like kind of like even before they started directly facing the Predator, I just thought like everything leading up, her relationship with her dog, and then like with her grandma, and like I was digging it a lot. I thought it was really well done as far as the concept and stuff. And I will say too, so I watched this in 2 sittings, and the first part was on a big screen TV, and then the end I ended up watching on a small screen. And that did take away a little bit of it. I feel like I could, because a lot of the scenes at night, I had trouble kind of seeing what exactly was going on. I don't know if you guys had that just anyways, but I had that at least.
I had a little bit because I had a glare from when I was watching.
Okay, yeah. Like some of the action scene, I couldn't really track what exactly was happening, but yeah. So that might have taken the second half down a little bit for me, but really loved the beginning. I thought it was really, really cool.
Just the survival horror like concept, like, and throwing that in like an established universe of like this creature that is basically like it cannot be topped speed, skill in combat, or strength. Like it's going to beat you in every way. Like how do you defeat something like that when you're totally outmatched? Usually that's just more of like a horror trope with a monster, and this is like throwing it back in the Comanche way, or in the that universe, making that a survival horror. I thought was a really great choice.
Yeah, I think it does a good job of kind of pacing that out and setting up like the stakes and kind of the rules as it moves along. There was a cool sequence where, because like I don't know anything about the Predator at all. And I liked the sequences of showing like kind of the like an act like a predator in nature, like going like a wolf going after a rabbit, or like a snake going after a mouse, like that kind of thing, and then the Predator like identifying the stronger or like the strongest thing there, and then just destroying that thing,
obliterating it.
So like that was really interesting.
I was gonna say the scene with the bear, when the bear starts chasing her,
dude, what a great scene. What a great scene.
Really cool fight with the Predator and the bear. And by the way, this isn't a spoiler episode, right? Or
no?
Okay, all right. So we'll
leave it at that.
But no, that was a really cool scene. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was. There were moments of this where I just kept thinking like, this is so much better than The Revenant.
That's great. That's great.
There were moments that I had where I was thinking I wish that this would have came out in theaters.
Same here.
I feel like I would have.
Feels like I've gone to this in theaters for sure.
Right? I mean, visually and just the feel of it, I think it would have been cool.
And those big, wide, like nature shots, and with the action, and this definitely deserved a run on the big screen for sure.
I mean,
and I'm saying that as somebody who like doesn't care about this kind of stuff very often.
Yeah. It's an all Native American cast as well, which is like, that'd be a huge point to get that in like a theater run. I really liked about this, like, you're not as familiar with Predator, Nate, but like he's got a ton of gadgets. Obviously at the beginning, basically in every movie, he is invisible. He is like impossible to see. He's just lurking in the shadows. That's obviously the main thing. But he's got like heat vision and a bunch of like dark, like night vision, all that stuff. They don't use that as much in this movie. And then even like the 3-dot like laser thing, which established universe, like people are aware of. There's not that much of it in this movie as compared to the other series, which I thought was really, really cool. That it's much more close combat. Yeah, it's like if there's no technology in the world, why would he be using technology, right?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. That was a
part of what
nice touch.
Yeah, part of what makes the first one so fun is that he's going up against commandos that are, locked and loaded to the brim, and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he needs those it's all about kind of technological supremacy and yada yada. But with this one, because it's so different and the setting is so different, I liked that they didn't lean into that too much. They showed that he had those things, but at the core, he was just like a predator. Like he would get down on like all fours to like fight certain things. Like I don't know. I liked it. It was interesting though, because they do definitely, Nate, especially in the first one, they really draw out the predator reveal of what he looks like. I mean, you get a lot of where he's invisible and he's scoping him out. And, obviously because at this point, the franchise is so well established that they pretty much show you what he looks like right from the beginning. They don't really build up to that reveal moment. Sure. They're pretty much like, you guys know who he is. We know who he is. Here he is. Whereas, of course, you did not. So I think I
still I've seen posters. I appreciated at least that they didn't kind of give me the, ooh, what does he look like?
Yeah, because that's a big part of the tension and the suspense of the first one, which does work pretty well. But
and they stylized the character, the predator, a little bit differently than they do in the other ones as well. Like his helmet or whatever is his face covering is different, and like some of the things he does have are different, and we haven't seen those before, which I thought that was cool.
Should we maybe touch on some of the things that we didn't think really worked, or just weak spots?
Yeah, I found it fairly predictable, like kind of how they set up, like how they're gonna learn to fight this thing kind of in the act. It I was able to pick up very quickly on like sort of the breadcrumbs they were leaving and things they were drawing attention to. And it was very easy to be like, oh, that's going to come into play later, and that's going to come into play later, and this place is going to come into play later. And not that that's horrible or anything for a movie like this, but this movie didn't really give me many surprises.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's definitely fair. For me, one of the weak spots was when they kind of, towards the end, they kind of lean into just like the gore and kind of like seeing him like basically just eviscerate like a ton of dudes. And I felt like that scene went on too long and kind of just felt out of place with the mood of the rest of the movie. The rest of it is so, I don't want to call it like really like, cerebral, but like it's about like survival, and it's all about like, it has this pace that feels very natural and very grounded.
Very cat and mouse too.
Very cat and mouse. And then when that scene happened, it was just like, oh, we're just going to kind of watch. It's almost like fan service. Like, well, they love when Predator.
10 minutes of a slasher movie.
Yeah. And then there were just certain points where it was like one dude in particular got it unfairly rough, and it was like, okay, like this scene could have been shorter, and I don't know. So that was a weak spot for me.
Yeah, I feel like that could have been a little bit shorter, although I don't mind having like them showing again like the absolute supremacy of this creature, that like it is top of the food chain wherever it goes.
It does sort of give us a bar for our main characters to clear. You'd have a better understanding. Like, again, if you're someone like me, who I'm just like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure this thing can just like waste anybody it wants.
You're like 1v1 me, bro. Like,
yeah. So I guess for somebody who's new to the franchise, that for me was at least nice to see from that perspective. Okay. I do think that scene went longer than it needed to.
Yeah.
But it does establish like, okay, this is going to be like really, really, really hard.
Yeah. I think the only other, and this is a very minor gripe, is like some of the CGI for the action, like one of the weapons that gets used by one of the native characters is a little bit more like, all right, well, that wouldn't necessarily do, like the physics of that wouldn't always work, but whatever. But like that's a very minor gripe. I don't want to like, I'm not hanging my hat on like, that's why this is bad. But like, it was just like, I noticed it was like, all right, well,
that could have been done better, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
and I think
that's it.
Yeah, and I think to add to your point about the predictability, I think it's especially down the stretch, you feel like you know how it's going to end, and that kind of takes away from the gravitas of like one of the big confrontations that's like later in the movie, but there's still like 20 minutes after it, and like just the weight of that, like the weight of that moment, and like how epic it was, just felt like kind of hollow because it was like, well, everyone knows what's about to happen here. Like,
yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at. Where you're
and your decision to have this particular conflict happen when there's still 20 minutes left, like everyone really knows. Like they could have maybe waited and had, but I mean, I still thought it was enjoyable, but yeah, I felt just the last 30 minutes kind of got predictable and they leaned a little bit too much into the gore. And then, like I said, the scenes at night, it was kind of hard for me to track what was happening. So I'm definitely going to give this another shot, on a better TV. And also, I think it was a fun time. I'd be willing to watch it again.
Yeah, it's also only an hour and 40 minutes long, so it's not like you're committing to a huge, endeavor. But
right.
Mm-hmm.
Should we get to the
stars?
Perfect.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Reading minds. Right. We will be right back with our star ratings. So, who would like to go first?
Let's have Nate go first.
Okay. I will go first. So this is generally not my kind of movie, but I had fun with this. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5.
Hey, excellent,
yeah.
Excellent.
So also, I did want to mention too, on Hulu, there's a version of this movie that's entirely in Comanche.
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
I think it's dubbed. I don't think they filmed the movie twice. But still, I mean, that's really cool. And I think it's an option if you go into Hulu, is just kind of like under the extras or something. There's like a Comanche dub version.
That would be cool.
Like that.
Yeah,
so if you're interested in that, that might be kind of cool to get like even more like sort of early 18th century authenticity. But yeah, despite being rather predictable, I had fun with this. So
nice. Right. Yeah. They could have really committed and just had the movie actually be with Comanche and like all subtitles. That
wild. That would have really that. I feel like that's another level of like commitment to the authenticity, like you're saying, Nate. Like that's true. Like this is like some indie art house shit. Like let's get after it.
Maybe to Nate's point, like if this movie didn't have the predator part of it and it was just about this girl and having to hunt this huge bear or this crazy wolf or something, and they had committed and had it all in command, like that's like you're saying, that would have felt more appropriate. But I think they were like, well, this is also a predator movie, so we got
we want to know
what's it down just a little bit.
Subtitle fully a predator movie after.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Oh man! All right, I'll go next.
Okay.
Could you imagine if they just made like the next Mission Impossible movie like in French?
Just like what? The mission was in France. He had to go undercover.
Don't blow my cover, man.
That's exactly the same thing as, I mean, from a franchise standpoint, but that would be authentic to this movie. But yeah, for how big the Predator franchise is, it would be crazy if the only version of this movie was not in English.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go next. I'm going to give this a 3.5. I thought this was very good. There were parts, it's between a 3.5 and a 4 for me. Like that first 40 minutes was like so solid. I was having a great time. And I really liked that. I also want to just, give a shout out to some of the actors, because I think there were some really good performances, specifically Naru, the main character played by Amber Midthunder. I thought she did a really, really good job. Like she was fierce. She was like, the emotion was there. I also liked Dakota Beavers as her older brother, Tabe. He had that swag. He had that hunter swag. Like he had it going on. So I wanted to shout out to them. But yeah, I really liked this movie. I had a good time. Kind of lost me towards the end, and then just classic, cinephile gripe, like the CGI, certain parts kind of took me out of it. I wish that it all would have been practical effects. It probably would have been a little more badass, but that's not how things are anymore. So I understand that, but I still had a really good time. A good Predator movie, and in my opinion, definitely the second best besides the original. Like I don't know. I think that's a pretty safe statement. And then
I would like the original as much as this one.
I think you would, because it's a lot different. It's very.
I'm sure it is.
It's very 80s though. Like it's very.
It almost is kind of horror sci-fi, because they really, they treat it as kind of a monster, because they're going for that alien vibe, but with commandos. So And then also all the practical effects, and I mean Arnold in his prime, Jesse Ventura. You kind of just have to see it to believe it.
Yeah,
but it's a good time. But yeah, it's the second best Predator movie in my opinion, and yeah, solid 3.5.
I will concur with a lot of what you just said, Dylan. I'm also giving this a 3.5. I was between a 4 and a 3.5. I actually rated this on Letterboxd as a 4 at first. I was like, actually, let's drop that down because I can always see it again and bump it up. Versus like it's never the floor is 3.5.
Okay, yeah.
It's a gruesome horror sci-fi or horror thriller survival horror movie. The action is chaotic and intense, and it's all hand to hand with very, very few weapons. Very few major weapons, I should say.
Well, and no technology at all. It's they built all their, she had to like
they had to build
everything
like that. Yeah, in the middle when she's like she creates something new. It's like, oh, like you had to like go out and actually figure that shit out yourself and like know what you were going for.
Yes,
that was cool. I thought that it's not exactly, I think, what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe like a little bit even earlier in time where there's not like certain groups of people encroaching or anything like that. And it was a little bit older. But I enjoyed how they dealt with that incursion of other things, like
how they weave that into the story.
Yeah. I had one other thing to say and now I'm going to forget it, but I think second best Predator movie easily. And I definitely would have liked to have seen it on the big screen as opposed to in my living room.
Yes. I think that should be the hot take that you take away from this podcast if you're listening, is it is a shame that this wasn't available to just go see in theaters, because I think that would have been a fun theater experience.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Whose turn is it to put a wrap on the show?
I've got it this time.
All right. Take it away, Adam.
Chuck everything except for the potatoes.